This is the Tom Bigby Tales, and I'm your host, Shannon Evans. I write about a small town in northeast Mississippi called Columbus, and sometimes I write about the rest of the state. This evening's episode has to do with the banking of the Columbus Housing Authority and the way money is moved around. So, first, I'm going to have to share my screen. So, I'm going to start the share, and we're going to look at some bank statements. This is the Columbus Housing Authority's account titled 3537. So I'm just going to go by the last four digits because we have three main accounts we're going to look at. We're going to look at 1802, which is their property management account, 9320, which is the account that they pay their bills out of. So basically their checking account. And then they have this other account called 3537, and I'm not really sure what it is, except that it too seems to get money possibly from um, rental of some of their properties. What we're going to look at first is the one that I have open is the February 29th, 2024. So these are nominal deposits, as you can see. And then suddenly there's a $52,792 deposit. Now, I'm not really sure where it came from or um, what it is going toward. So I just wanted to annotate that there is this $52,000 deposit into this account. Where did it come from? Where does it go? What is the purpose of this account? Because it just says public fund interest checking. And this is City of Columbus Housing Authority. That's the type, that's the name on this checking account. All right, so I'm going to close that one and I'm going to go to the next one. The next one is going to be June 17th. And let's pull that one up. Let's go to June. I got to go down here. Where did June go? June of 2024. And I want this one. And this is, hang on, here it goes. Okay, this is that same 3537. And as you can tell, checks and withdrawals was $150,000. They had $83,000 in deposits. So here are their deposits. Here are more deposits. And then they moved $150,000 to this 9320 account, which is, of course, that account that is the checking account. Now, what I find interesting is that if I go to the 9320 account, which let's go do that, they received not only that $150,000 deposit, they ended up with $868,000 worth of deposits. So let's look at what their deposits came from. So there's the web transfer of 150,000 right there. And then they get their HUD money. So this is a HUD deposit of 555,000, a 7,000, 120,000, and a 35,000. Now, why, if knew they were going to get their monthly deposit on the 25th, on the 17th, why did they transfer over $150,000? More importantly, none of this is ever presented to the board. There's no discussion, there's no announcement, there's nothing in the board minutes that states that money's being moved between these accounts. There is absolutely zero mention of them. So I'm at a loss why an addition, if they were getting over, let's see, that's five, six, seven, almost $800,000. Why were they in need of another 150,000? What bills did they have that they were going to spend that much? Because as you can see here, they only spent 394,000. So why was that much money moved to that bank account? I am it's totally unclear to me what has transpired that they needed to make sure they had $868,000 deposited if they were only going to spend 394 in that budgeted month. So there is that question. Okay, so now we're going to go look. Um, we talked about the check that was written to cash, and apparently that money was moved in August. Let's see if we can go back up here. That money was moved in August, on the 19th of August, to, this in the 1802 account. It was moved to the Chodo account, which I don't have those account numbers. That would be a bank first. These are all Trustmark. So in this month, and I've talked about this in the last episode, a check was written to $75,000 cash. And we can see that down here. Let's go down. There it is. It's made out to cash. What we don't see is that there was a check cut, allegedly. I have seen a check that supposedly was cut for the Chodo account for deposit. What we don't see is one, the deposit slip. We don't see that the check is signed on the back, and it only has a single signature, not a double. Much like this doesn't have a double signature. So there's lots of little squirrely things going on here because they are a two signature organization. The president's signature is not on here. The president was not even aware that they were moving $75,000 allegedly from the Columbus Housing Authority bank account 1802, which is their property management account, and moving it into the uh, Columbus Community Housing Development Organization. So this moving of money hither and yon, and they call it a gift when they put it over at Chodo, and it is just a mess. But the worst part about this is no one on the board knew. More importantly, the second signatory did not know. So that's problematic. So now we're going to go to the November of 2024, account 3537. Let's go down here to the November one, and let's look at November. In November, checks and fees for withdrawals, there's a check for $100,000 that was removed. So I'm going to go down here, and money was wired from this 3537 account to their checking account, which is 9322. And it's $100,000. That's a lot of money. And it was moved from this account that we don't know what this account is, that had $1,538,623 in it. $1,538,623 in this account to another account that is already getting HUD money. So I'm not really sure why that happened. So let's go look at that 9320 account where this money is being deposited. So let's go to 9320 for November. Okay. Look, deposit of $100,000. They already had a $695,000 balance. What were they spending that kind of money on and going through so much money? Well, that leads me back to, remember the discussion I said about how much money was being spent in the checking account? Um, between, we know that from November to December, we know that they had spent a lot of money. Well, look, if you look right here, it says they'd spent $724,000 and they only had 695,000. So do they have overdrafts? Let's look. Did they have, so now they're down to $71,000 in this account after having 695 plus 1,000. So look, Here's the $100,000 transfer on November 29th from um, the 3537 into this checking account. Well, let's look. Did they have, were they overdrawn? I don't see an overdraft. Oh, yeah, there is. They did have an overdraft. So their corporate account and they're getting overdraft fees. That seems like we we know that Mr. Graythree is supposed to be an accountant. He was the comptroller, and he's now doing all this money moving, and he's controlling the money, and he's the executive director. They're supposed to have a new accountant starting um, in July. Dear God, I'm so glad because this is very questionable banking practices at best. I think it's definitely mismanagement, if not fraud, on the outlook of this. Okay, so now we're going to go look at the last month. I'm not even going to try 2025. I'm just going to stick to 2024. 2024. And we're going to look at account number 1802, which is up here, account 1802, and we're going to look at December. Where's December of 1802? 11. There's not it. I don't think. Let's try this one. Will it open? Yes, here it is. Okay. So this is account 1802. It is December of 2024. It is the property management account. So in the property management account, it says that they had 91,000 deposits were made, so it brought it to 457,000. So the deposits were they've got money from an account 3427. I have no idea what account is 3427. I've never seen this bank account. I don't know what it is. Unless it's a typo for 3537. I do not know. But they had a web transfer of $298,723 from this account. And it says it's an internal web transfer. So it's from 3427 into this account. The other one is from that checking account. So they brought 158,000 from the checking account into this property management account. Now, what are they spending money on? Don't know. But let's look at where the money comes when it goes out. So the money went from the primary checking and from this 3427 account that I don't know what this is. And it's deposited into this account. And then they take that money and they move it out to the 3537 account that we don't know what it's for. And the 3537 account, they transferred in 229,000, 67,000, and 15,000. So that's $300,000. But this is what's interesting. Look at these dates. On the 30th, they moved 229,000. On the 31st, they moved 67,000 and 15,000 to the same account. Why didn't they just move 300,000 in one fell swoop? I don't have an answer. So let's go look at the December sorry, statement of this account 3537. So I'm going to go back, go look at account 3537, and these are it. And I'm going to go down here to the December one. And I don't think Mr. Grathry included it, even though it's supposed to be in here. Oh, wait, I spoke too soon. It's right here. Okay. We are now in account 3537, where this $229,148, the $67,924, and the $15,230 are supposed to have been sent. So I'm going to go here, and there they are. On the 30th, this amount was deposited. On the 31st, these two amounts were deposited. Now, they then move money from this account, which makes no sense, the 3537 account, to the 9320 account. Now, look at this. On the 16th, they moved $600,000 into the checking account. And on the 31st, they moved $550,000 into the checking account. Why? Why are they moving it from, they're leapfrogging. So they move it from one account to the middle account to the last account. They're all in the same bank. Why didn't they just move the 300,000 straight over to 9327? Why are they moving monies around like this? And why is the board not aware that these monies are being moved around like this? So now let's go to the December uh, statement for the 9320. So let's go look. So $1,150 should be in there, right? 9320. Were they deposited? Well, there's the 600,000 and yep, so $1,150,000 were transferred from 3537 into this account. And this, of course, is their checking account, their checking payment. Um, they wrote a big check, 44,843, which I could go look up. But I know that that was insurance to the M-Harm. So we'll talk another day about insurance because they pay an outrageous amount. They belong to a consortium called M-Harm that Rusty Walker has gotten them into. But as you can see, most of the checks are not that large. The only other really super large one I see is for $26,866. So the rest of this is really interesting because these are electronic transfers. They go out to their insurance company, to the IRS, the city of Columbus to pay taxes, that kind of stuff. And then there are the checks that were written. And so what I see is an awful lot of money is getting bounced between accounts. Sometimes it gets bounced twice before it lands wherever it's going. While I'm not stating that I think Mr. Guthrie is committing fraud, that's not what I'm saying. Might be, might not be. But what it does do is this is definitely a case of a serious case to be investigated in the processes of this organization and how money's being mismanaged, um, and how it's being moved around. It and how the board is not even made aware that these large amounts of money are being moved around. Um, and supposedly it is then moved over to the uh, Chota. And that's not even clearly marked in here. So I'm curious, how do they move the money over? How often are they moving the money over? And are they sticking to their budget? Are they sticking to their budget for their own organization? And are they sticking to their budget over at the Chota? Okay, I know this is a little bit of an unusual podcast episode, but I think it's really important that I share with you exactly what I'm doing, my processes, and what I'm finding, and the questions I have. I don't have answers, I just have questions. And so I just want to follow these trails and show you what I see. Now, we could go look into um, the one for uh, um, 2025, but I only looked at a couple of months in there because it's only it's only June. And so I'm going to stick with what I've found so far. And I'm going to say, just taking a snapshot of 2024, their accounting practices are abysmal. And the next thing I'm going to do after I get the credit card statements is I'm going to be asking for the audits. I want to know if they've been audited. They've billed for auditing. I can see it in their checks. They've paid an auditor. Um, have they acted on the recommendations of their audits? And who's their auditor? I think it's somebody out of Tennessee, out of Franklin, Tennessee. That's what I got for tonight. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Um, these are your tax dollars too, because this is federal money that they're messing with and that they're responsible for. And some of it's state, some of it's local, um, but primarily this is federal money. So this is everybody's money, and you really should care and you should be asking questions. And remember, sunlight truly is the best disinfectant. I'm Shannon Evans, and this is Tom Bigby Tales. Good night.